Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the technique Darting Mace, its execution, some of the problems that may arise during its execution, and how to fix those or compensate for those errors. So let's start with the ideal phase of this technique. It is a two-hand to one-hand wrist grab. Notice that they're grabbing your major hand on this one, so what you have available is your two minors and your major foot. One of the things that you need to worry about with this grab is there is no weak point to this grab because they're grabbing on both sides, and normally you would go to the weak side, which is the thumb, but since both thumbs are facing each other, there's no real way to get out of this easily, as you would with, say, a single-handed wrist grab. Next problem is, if we do want to get our hand out, because this is our major weapon that we want to be able to use against this opponent, if I just try and pull, it's 2 against 1, which is not good odds, especially if you're smaller than this person. So I just can't pull out of this technique. So the general idea of what we're going to try and do here is to get our hand out. So the way we're going to do that is to compensate and get 2 against 2. So the general idea of this is I'm going to basically put my hand against them, push and pull, and then break the grab that way. But in order to do that, to make it easier for ourselves, is we're going to go against the face with this vertical punch and then push and pull. So we're going to punch and push and pull simultaneously with one another to make it easier to pull out of this. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about what the first part of this technique does. One of the ideas of this technique is to try and hit the forearm here of the opponent to try and help loosen up the grab on their right hand. One of the problems that may occur is that you take a long route to get to this hit, and if I want to hit him in the face, it doesn't make any sense to do this. We're breaking the principle of economy of motion. So there's a much more efficient way of getting that hit, and that would be to step in and do the hit short, and that gives us our line of attack for the punch. Now, as we do that strike, there's also another thing that's occurring here with my right hand. I'm trying to turn this hand up so that I can get my elbow anchored so I can get a better push-pull. Now, if this person is stronger than me, just like the pulling out, I obviously can't torque either. So there's a way to compensate for that. That way to compensate for that is to step in and anchor my elbow. So if you notice, I don't really have to torque their hand over, but I can expose the nerves that I need on their forearm. So what you're going to do is this simultaneously, the bend of the elbow on your right, the anchor of the elbow on your left, and do the strike as you're coming in. So the way to think about this is like you're doing an outward block and an inward block, but you're not doing an outward and inward block, but that's the way to think about the motion that's occurring here. So as I step forward, I anchor my elbow, step in with the forearm, then I get the vertical punch to the face, push and pull. The next problem I run into is look at my right hand. I now have it free and ready to punch that person. The problem that may occur here is I over pull, and now I no longer have line of sight for my right punch, so now I have to turn it right back in to try and get that line of sight to get the punch. So the idea here is I want to go pull out, hit them. So it doesn't make any sense to pull out, turn away, and then turn back in and lose line of sight for that. So let's walk through this motion one more time because it's very complex. We're going to step in, anchor this elbow, we're going to shoot this forearm in. So notice I delayed the timing here on the forearm. You don't want to do that when you do the actual execution. What you want to do, just like Kenpo does most everywhere, is use timing of the step with the strike. So anchor and step, hit that strike at the same time. Then you get the punch and pull at the same time. So it's a 1, then 2 motion. So it's a strike, settle, anchor, push, pull. That's the way you want to think about what's happening and keeping line of sight. Well, now that we've got our line of sight, we've got the opponent back, and this is where we're going to be hitting. Their normal reaction would be to pick up their hands and cover their face. That's what this left hand does. As I begin to do that, I clear that back down to keep a line of entry for my punch, shoot the line of entry. That's going to cause that person to back up. Now, there's 2 ways you could do this punch. It doesn't really matter which way you're going to do it. For an ideal phase, it depends upon your distance from your opponent. If I'm very close to this opponent, the better of the 2 punches is to do a vertical punch because it's more compact, keeps the elbow anchored, keeps better body alignment. But if the person's farther away, you're going to want to turn this into a straight punch, as we call it, or a reverse punch. So it depends upon how far they are away and how long your arms are in comparison to them as to what punch you want to do. So let's walk through this one more time. Step in, anchor the elbow, keep line of sight for the punch, push, pull, clear the hands, and punch. Now, the next motion here is going to be a knee and a chop. Chop with the left, knee with the right. What I need to worry about is since I came down and cleared the hand here, I don't want to make a circle out of this and lose my economy of motion. What I want to do is reverse that motion and come back up again and match the line that I'm going to do with my knee at the same time. So both the knee and the hand are going to be going up at a 45-degree angle. The reason why I want to do that is because I want more strike to this opponent without sending him back too far, because I want my next major is going to be my right. So if I send him too far back, even if I step through, I'm never going to be able to hit him. So by going up at a 45-degree angle, I can keep him closer to me so that I can get the next strike effectively. So let's walk through this again. Anchor punch, punch, pull, clear, punch. Now, coming up, knee and hit at the same time. Now notice what I just did. I stopped. Notice I have a compact unit on my knee. Notice my toes are pointing. Compact unit means get your foot as close as you can to your body. Don't let it hang out, hang down, and not create a compact unit. Remember, with elbows and knees, we always want to create a compact unit. So the next thing we're going to pay attention to is what I did by stopping. We really don't want to stop with this technique. We don't want to stutter step. What we want to do is we want to step right through, because we're going to hit with this major. So we basically want to go push this guy back to where we want him and hit him in the face. So we want to do it fast. 1, 2. We don't want to go stop, start again, and hit. So that's one of the major problems that you'll see with this technique. Very often, people get in the habit of hitting, stopping, continuing forward, and then hitting with the right. Remember, this is your major. This is the one that you want to hurt him with. These will hurt, but they're not going to hurt him as much as your major. So you have basically 2 majors in this technique. That's not a major, that's a major. You could possibly consider the right a major, and then your final right shot is a major. So let's go through how that motion would occur. We go push, pull, hit, we go hit, hit. Okay, notice how I stepped through and didn't stutter step. The effect of the knee and the chop will keep the person straight up and down, which will allow us to get the heel palm straight in. So now there's one other thing we have to worry about, and let's talk about it with the heel palm. So as we walk through this entire technique, we get to here. One of the things that you'll see is people will step through and over torque and extend the right hand. Remember, we have the invisible rim or outer rim or invisible box. It also extends out away from our body. We don't want to go outside of that box beyond comfortable reach and beyond where we can keep our elbow anchored. So if we extend our elbow too far, if we happen to accidentally miss, we've created a line of entry for our opponent. So make sure that you don't overreach and you don't over torque. Remember, torquing can be under torqued, torqued on, and over torqued. So what does that mean? What that means is if I want to hit this person, I can hit this way and I'm under torqued. Notice I'm facing him with a forward bow. If I get to a neutral bow, I've torqued where I want to be. And if I over torque, I start to get towards a reverse bow, you notice I can no longer effectively strike, and that's called over torquing or over rotating. So remember, we want to get our rotation on. So that what that means is you want to be at a neutral bow at maximum to a horse, but you don't want to be on that point. Okay, so let's walk through this one more time, talk through it, and then we'll go through it slightly faster. So remember, we can't resist this person very much because they're stronger than us. So what we're going to do is use our body, stepping forward, anchoring our elbow, timing, hit, and torque at the same time. Don't make a separate motion or use economy of motion. Push, pull to the face. Don't lose line of sight for a punch. Clear the hands down. Punch. Don't make a loop out of our left hand. Remember, economy of motion works in both directions. We want to match the 2 lines of our chop and our knee. We don't want to stutter step. We want to step straight through heel palm and don't over torque and don't overreach. So let's do it one more time, slightly faster, so you can see how it would work effectively. Okay? Thank you very much. Hope this video helped you.